Hello, and welcome to our chapter on pronominal suffixes on verbs. That should be chapter 19 in your textbook. Just some things that you'll want to be aware of. I'm going to move my notes here where I can see them and put my glasses on so that I can see my notes. Just some things that you're going to want to do is reflect back from our section on adding a pronominal suffix to a noun. I would even recommend that you go back to that chapter and review, because this is not going to be substantially different. It's just going to be adding the pronominal suffix to the verb instead of to the noun. But you'll remember that with the nouns, there were two types of pronominal suffixes, type 1 and type 2. We're going to be, with verbs, solely concerned with type 1. Now, there are two ways to translate a pronominal suffix. And again, you'll review this if you'll go back and look at your section on nouns with pronominal suffixes. But there's two ways to translate a verb with there's two ways to translate a pronominal suffix. There is the possessive and the objective. Let's review a little bit with that. You remember our word for Seuss? Samick? Wasamic. Seuss. Now, if we wanted to make this a possessive, if we wanted to add a pronominal suffix that's going to make this possessive, let's add the third masculine singular pronominal suffix to holomois, or an O, Suso. This is going to be translated his horse. And his is going to give us that possessive value. Now, if we wanted to say a horse to him, and make it have an objective value, we would add a lamed and a holomois, and this would be translated to him. And him would have not a possessive value, but an objective value. So the top one, Suso, his horse, the bottom one, lo, to him. Now with verbs, you do not have to concern yourself with the possessive, because verbs will only take a pronominal suffix with an objective value. So with verbs, we use the objective value, translation value only. So that should make it a little bit easier for you. But again, go back and look at the section on nouns with pronominal suffixes and review those rules. Now here on this sheet, when a pronoun is the direct object of a verb, it's commonly attached to the definite direct object marker. There is, however, another way indicating this grammatical construction. The object pronoun may also be added directly to the verb as a pronominal suffix. Here we have two examples, and these both translate the exact same way. Ishmor Othenu, he will keep us. You have a definite direct object marker. In this first one, he will keep us. Or in Hebrew, you can put it all together. Yishmorenu. It's directly attached to the verb. He will keep us. Both have the same exact translation value, but they can be written in two different ways. One with the definite direct object marker, or the other one directly attached to the verb, and it's going to give you the same identical translation value. You will find this happening in the Hebrew Bible. You will find both ways, and so you need to be aware of this. And here in this next sentence, Shofet Ethach, he judged you, or Shofetak, he judged you. Both have the same identical translation value. And that, as far as an introduction goes, that should bring you to the realization that things are getting more more compounded. That now you not only have to look for identify, is it a noun or is it a verb? Does it have a pronominal suffix? Does it have a direct object? Is it indefinite? And then with the verbs, is it past? Is it perfect, imperfect? And or is it an imperative now that we've had that? So things are compounding. So I really cannot encourage you enough. Stay caught up. Take time to go back and review over past lessons, because you're not, each lesson is building upon the lessons from the weeks before. So here we have a paradigm of the pronominal suffixes on verbs, and this is just a review of the type 1 suffixes and then the alternates. Now all this is found in your book, but these are the things that you're going to need to memorize. Commit to memory the type 1 suffixes and the type 1 alternate. And then, of course, be very familiar with the translations. And again, all of this is in your book for you to look at. Now, what we have here is the Cal Perfect without the suffixes. Katal, katala, katal, katal, so on and so forth. And we're very familiar with these by now, but this is what the Cal Perfect looks like if there is no suffix. Now, if there's going to be a suffix added, it begins to, the verb has to prepare itself for that suffix. So the suffix has not yet been attached, but these are the changes that the verb is going to undergo to get ready to have that pronominal suffix attached to it. The only major changes that you need to focus on and memorize is your 3FS, your 2MS, and your 2FS. Now, with the 2FS, I do want you to memorize that, but I also want you to know and take confidence in this. This 2FS will only occur 7 times, total 7 times in all the Old Testament. The 2FS and the 2MS, 200 to 300 times each. But this third one here, the 2FS, it will only occur 7 times. But I am asking you to memorize this because you're going to need this for other things later on in the semester. So these three, the 3FS, the 2MS, the 2FS, you need to commit to memory, because the others basically only take a change with regard to the vowel. Now you'll see that the 2MP and the 2FP are blank. And the reason that the 2MP and 2FP are blank is because these particular forms do not take a pronominal suffix. It just doesn't happen in the Hebrew Bible. So if it doesn't happen, I don't see any reason to have to know it or memorize it. So here now on this sheet, these are your pronominal suffixes actually attached to a verb. Let's see if we can pronounce these together. Kataloni, Kataloki, Katalake, Kataloo, and you get the idea. But this is what it's going to actually look like with its pronominal suffix attached to it. Become more than familiar, but these are the same pronominal suffixes that you memorize to go along with your nouns. So this is not anything new for you. This is just taking what you already know and repurposing it with your verbs. Here we have pronominal suffixes on verbs. Again, this is the Cal Imperfect with the pronominal suffixes. Just like before, this is what your imperfect looks like without any suffixes at all. This is your Cal Imperfect without any suffixes at all. Then once you add, or before you add, these are the changes that's going to take place. The 3FP and the 2FP, again, are missing because they just don't appear in the Hebrew Bible. And if they don't appear and there's no need for us to know them, I don't see any reason in torturing you to make you learn them. In these forms, or in those forms that preserve the O-class stem vowels, the O-class reduces to a vocal schwa. That is the only thing that changes on the imperfects, is that O-class stem vowel reduces to a vocal schwa. And that's it for the imperfects. I mean, this is really easy compared to some of the things that we've done in the past. So let's see, here's another category. These are one of those alternates that you need to be aware of. Let's read together here at the top. In addition to type 1 and type 2 pronominal suffixes, there are 3 additional suffixes that occur with some frequency. These suffixes may be called noon suffixes because of their distinctive spelling with noon. And you'll need to memorize these 3. They are ekha, enu, and ana. Now you're probably thinking, okay, these are called noon suffixes, but the ekha has no noon, so where's the noon? Well, this is what happens. The noon assimilates into the kaf as a doggish forte. At one time, it may have been pronounced in ka or something like that, but the noon assimilates as a doggish forte into that final kaf there. You don't see it, you don't pronounce it, but it is there. And you will need to memorize these 3 forms. Now, when you add a suffix to a cal imperative, and that's the form that we just worked on last week. Shamar becomes shomarim, and shafot becomes shoftani. The imperative 2ms form is spelled with a kametz hatuf before a pronominal suffix. Now, here's another one you need to know. Tifshu becomes tifshum, and dirshu becomes dirshoni. The imperative 2fs and 2mp, both ending in a vowel, do not change before a pronominal suffix. And then finally, imperatives with a pathic stem vowel lengthen the patha to the kametz before a pronominal suffix. And those are the basic rules with regard to our imperatives and the cal imperatives with a pronominal suffix. Now things are going to change with parsing, and when I ask you for parsing. When you parse, you're going to tell me that this is a cal perfect first common singular, but you're also going to have to now give me the information that it has a second masculine singular suffix, and then translate accordingly. So you're going to have to add the information, and of course on your exams or quizzes, I will always give you a sample so that you can see what you need to give to me. Now, in this section, the big features to remember: when it comes to pronominal suffixes on verbs, they maintain the objective translation value. They function as the definite direct object of the verb. 2. When it comes to the perfect conjugation and the taking of pronominal suffixes, the changes are distinctive and need to be remembered or memorized, especially those 3 forms with the pronounced changes that I pointed out to you. When it comes to the imperfect, there are no radical spelling changes. Just know this one rule. In those particular forms that have A or O class stem vowels, the stem vowel reduces to the vocal schwa before it takes the pronominal suffix. And you must remember the noon suffixes. Now with the imperative, it's just the second masculine singular that you need to be concerned with. The O class returns to the kametz hatuf, and the A class lengthens from pathic to kametz. And that's it. If you guys can get those rules down, then you've gotten down the verbs with the pronominal suffixes. Have an awesome week, and remember, your worksheets are your friends, and make sure that you do those and you do them with diligence.